because UNMIK forbade Serbian election officials to come to Kosovo. It's in writing. If they can't go there, they can't hold a referendum. They requested it, was refused. Look, it would go too long. Let's just get the question. Here we are. We've got a violation of international law. We've got a violation of national integrity and Serbian sovereignty as spelled out in 1244. We've got a potential unilateral declaration of independence coming in a couple of days, but not being recognized by the UN Security Council. What is the status then, in a few days, if this goes forward, of the NATO troops down in Kosovo? Who are they going to continue? Should they continue to enforce 1244, which I understand stands until revoked? Or do they recognize an independent Kosovo and some NATO troops go left and some NATO troops go right? What do you foresee as the reality of what's going to happen when we get a split decision on independence and a standing resolution 1244 unrevoked?
Okay, Daniel will handle that first question. I'd like to answer it. I'm sure Janusz.
No, respond. There's no questions. I expect that what will happen is that 1244 will continue to be regarded as in force. It does not say that the United States can't exercise its sovereign right to recognize Kosovo as a sovereign state. It just doesn't say that, and I dare say that anybody who tried to delegate that responsibility to the UN Security Council wouldn't survive long in Washington. What's more, I don't know any country that has become independent by being recognized by the Security Council. It's just not a function of the Security Council.
Or by the EU, incidentally.
Or by the
EU doesn't recognize countries.
I mean, the fact is that the NATO forces will be there very shortly after a coordinated declaration of independence. It will not be unilateral. After a coordinated declaration of independence, they'll be there at the invitation of a sovereign state. And I think that Russia, which de facto, after the fact, accepted the NATO intervention against Serbia in '99, will in fact accept once again the NATO presence in Kosovo at the invitation of a state that most NATO members will regard as sovereign.
Answer you're not supposed to give in a Washington setting, but I'll give it, I don't know. And I don't think anybody does. We don't know what will happen. We don't know how countries will react. We don't know, for example, what the People's Republic of China will do with its small police contingent, which they've always said is there deployed under 1244, which they understand to mean that you have territorial integrity and that can't be unilaterally changed. So will you have a case where different troops will stay and leave? I don't know. Maybe this will happen, maybe it won't. I just don't think we're in a position right now to speak with any degree of certainty. We thought we had a second resolution for the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Surprise, surprise, goes to the Security Council and it gets yanked. I don't mean that in a kind of, just to be light about it, but I think we do have to have a certain degree of humility in not coming up with pronouncements that we know what's going to happen in the days to come. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what will happen in various countries that are immediately close to the situation. Russia will have its presidential elections transition. We don't know what will happen, whether they'll see this as an issue or not. The signals from Beijing, and I really am surprised. We always talk about it. Let's not ignore that China is the forgotten fifth member of the Permanent Five. Their signals, they're sending them all over the place on this issue. I just don't know what will happen. I think what you're going to have is again, this kind of countries will decide in the absence of a new resolution. Each individual country will sort of decide what it wants to do. Groups of countries may work together. I don't know, for example, that you'd get NATO to reauthorize it. I don't know necessarily that you can automatically say that Greece is going to say, sure, we'll just go along with this. Maybe you should ask the ambassador if there's a position from Athens. But everything I've seen coming out of Athens so far sort of says, don't take us for granted on this. So I really think the best approach is to say we don't know. We need to be prepared for all contingencies. so that we're not surprised, so that we don't wake up the day after and suddenly we have all these op-eds being written. We couldn't have known that this would have happened, which is, sort of standard for the course.
Janusz.
Just very quickly, I can't help but respond. I don't know why you follow me around these meetings if you know what I'm going to say about Russia. I mean, the thing is, Russia has done good things. It lost an empire. It no longer uses military force against its neighbors. It no longer implants its political proxies in half of Europe. They're very positive things, as well as positive cooperation with the United States on anti-terrorism, some intelligence sharing, and so forth. So in that sense, yes, Russia's positive, but I think it's much more important to look at the negative factors here, because they affect Russia's neighbors, and they are increasingly affecting US policy and European Union policy. By the way, I love your conspiracy theories about CIA and Albanian terrorism. That's a good one.
I'd like to just answer a couple of things you said very quickly. Number one, the idea that the Albanians, Kosovo Albanians, really wanted to be peaceful, and if we'd only let them alone in the 1990s, things would have gone on beautifully. It was an apartheid state. These people have been fired from their jobs. They're educating their children underground. The idea that that would last forever, I knew Rugova. He was a peaceful man educated in the Sorbonne. So what? Their patience ran out after being in an apartheid state for a decade. Secondly, that there's no pressure from Serbia against the Kosovo Serbs. I'm sorry, that just ain't so. Again, I hate to be autobiographical, but in September of 2004, just before a Kosovo election, I met with every single one of the Kosovo Serb leaders. 2 or 3 of them told me the kind of pressure they were under. I mean, this is silly to say that it's not. Thirdly, that they didn't allow the observers to go in for the referendum. They had no intention of allowing the Kosovo Albanians to vote. This was a ploy because they knew that UNMIK was going to insist that they were going to be in charge of this stuff, so there would be no intimidation. I mean, it was, that's clear. Finally, I would say, no, I don't know, Nick, what's going to happen. Nobody knows, but every indication I've gotten from NATO is that the KFOR is going to stay, and there may be 1 or 2 national contingents that might decide to drop out. I don't think so. In fact, there's going to be a reinforcement of troops during the post-independence time, so there'll actually be more KFOR troops than there were before. I mean, Agin Cheku did not learn how to fight from the CIA. I mean, that's, I don't even know what to say to that one. And finally, I have to say, yes, there are always examples to the contrary when you're dealing with hundreds of thousands or millions of people, 2 million people in Kosovo. I have absolutely no doubt that there were many families like yours that intermarried and there are people who spoke Albanian and Serbian and everything. But nonetheless, I would say that Daniel's characterization over time is correct. In the main, these were communities that were separate. There were exceptions to the contrary. I don't know any historian of the area that doesn't think that they were divided. Ironically enough, in Bosnia, they were much closer. Of course, there we had a religious difference and not an ethnic difference, but Radovan Karadzic, the father of ethnic cleansing and everything, lived in an apartment house in Sarajevo with Muslim neighbors. I mean, so and there was no capital in Europe that had more religious intermarriage than Sarajevo. There, it's absolutely true, but I don't think I just don't know a single specialist in the area who doesn't accept Daniel's characterization. How much time do we have? We're out. Well, we're going to have a listen. Thank you all very much for coming and participating, and let's eat.
Please join us outside in the lobby for a light refreshment.